of Stevens Point Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission meeting, recorded March 6, 2019.
We'll call this meeting to order. Thanks for coming to the Stevens Point's Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission. We'll start with roll call. Bill Fehrenbach.
Here.
Michael O'Mara.
Here.
Mary McComb. Absent. Jan Sporsky.
Here.
Nicholas Corbin is excused. And that exhausts our list. Mary has here. Thanks, everyone. You were right there.
So close.
Okay. Item 2, persons who wish to address the committee for up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item. I'll start with the commission. Anyone have any non-agenda items they'd like to present?
No, I'm good.
I would like us to have the council consider a resolution, which if you guys approve, I draft up about automated non-driver vehicles. We've already had one fatality in the United States because they do not easily pick up pedestrians. And until they do that, I don't think we want to have them on our streets. Perhaps if they want to have them on the expressway, they work pretty good on the expressway. They don't work well many other places. I would make one up and present it for a future agenda item. But I think it's something we want to be in front of because when they come in, they'll come in like gangbusters.
Makes sense. Cool. Anybody else with a non-agenda item? I did have one I'll mention quickly, mainly for businesses, institutions, government entities, schools, etc. It's very difficult as it is to ride your bicycle in the winter. Some people do, however, and pretty much 99% of bike parking is covered in snow right now. There are some bike parking spots you will find sometimes, and again, it's probably close to 1% in my, empirical evidence. So those that are riding bicycle in the winter, it's very helpful, especially as we get into later in March and April, when that snow is melting, it's going to turn to a block of ice. So now I know it's more difficult to shovel because the snow has hardened a bit, but if you do have a chance, please do consider shoveling those bike parking spots out. Thanks. Any other non-agenda items?
All of our sidewalks could use improvement.
Blanket statement. Sure. Sorry, could you go up to the mic and say your name and address, please? Yes, sorry.
Okay, I'm Will Stites from 425 Buchholz Avenue. Something that's been on my mind for quite a while is the block of First Street where it's one way, adjacent to MEJ and those other little shops. There's no sidewalk on the east side. There's no safe way to walk to those businesses. There's plenty of width. There's even like an extra half a lane there on the east side where a sidewalk could be placed. So I think the city really should do that.
Thank you. And not to start a discussion, but I'd make a point that it might be part of the downtown master planning that's happening right now. So keep your eyes peeled. Thanks. Any other, anybody else in the audience for a non-agenda item? Okay. We'll move on to item 3, report of the December 5th, 2018 meeting.
I just want to make a correction.
Yes.
Somewhere in there, it says that Tori Jennings is District 9.
Oh,
And
okay.
that, she's not. She's 1.
He's one.
I am 9.
Understandable. Okay.
Where was that?
Oh, I found it on page 4 of 10 in the packet. right,
That's it.
middle, Alder Jennings, District 9 suggested, et cetera, et cetera.
They do have a correct in .8.
Awesome. Are there any other edits or questions, discussion on the report?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second?
I'll second approve with changes.
Okay,
Yeah.
seconding the approval with changes. All right, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? The motion carries. Item 4, becoming a bicycle-friendly business. And as noted in the agenda, this is an educational item for today. So in the packet on page 12 of 35, there's a memo from staff, and we'll actually reference this throughout the rest of the agenda. But you'll actually see, if you have it online or a physical copy, you'll see 2 links to a couple of different programs that are national bicycle programs, and specifically bicycle benefits, as well as bicycle-friendly business designation through the League of American Bicyclists. And I just wanted to speak on some of this today, mainly to encourage and also educate businesses on these cool opportunities. And believe it or not, it's actually part of the Portage County Countywide Bike Ped Plan itself. So you'll see this as a recommendation from the plan. So starting with the LAB program, the Bicycle-Friendly Business Designation, you can reference the packet further on page 14 through what looks to be 16. And staff included some information on the process, the benefits. I'll read just a few of the notes on the benefits of becoming a bicycle-friendly business. Some of the ones they list are recruitment, so attracting and retaining the best and brightest, increasing morale and quality of life for employees, enhancing health and wellness benefits and reducing costs of health care, reducing absenteeism, support and expand reliable, consistent transportation, particularly for employees in urban areas. There's a number of others that are listed on that page 14. But generally speaking, this is a program that's taking off throughout the country. So the U.S. Has seen a lot more businesses apply and get accepted into the program. And each business has then, therefore, either a designation if they get approved or a rejection with a report. And the cool thing is you actually get a report in any case, whether you're designated at a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum level. Any one of those designations, they will still give you a report. So it's kind of a neat opportunity to see what other businesses are doing throughout the country, some of the opportunities that might exist that you weren't aware of as a business. One of the reasons I've actually seen the report for a bicycle-friendly designation is because I work at the university, and they've applied, I think, twice now. So twice in the last three or 4 years. And unfortunately, they're not a bicycle-friendly university yet. But I've seen the report, and it's very thorough. It goes through a lot of ways to improve your business, to make it more bicycle, and by tangential benefits, pedestrian-friendly as well. So that's kind of a general rundown of becoming a bicycle-friendly business. Any other commissioners have input or questions or encouragement ideas for businesses?
No, Can
Yes.
we do any programs to go out to businesses or invite the community to even present some of this information?
Sure, in a more, more
Yes.
public,
Community, yeah,
more community,
yes.
yeah. I
Meeting, town hall
don't see
meeting,
why not.
whatever you want to call
Weren't
it.
we talking about, for that spring bicycle thing that the city always does, focusing on that bicycle-friendly business aspect? I thought we mentioned that.
Yeah, that might have been an idea. probably, we mentioned last fall, it's been a while, but yeah, I think it's a
vaguely
great idea.
remember.
I believe it was maybe 3 years ago that you did a little presentation at the spring event about bicycle benefits.
I don't think I did. I did.
You were
have-
selling the stickers.
I was a bicycle benefits person.
Right,
It-
so
I think I had.
I have the bicycle
Oh, yeah,
benefit
that's
sticker
right.
here. I'm one of the
Yeah.
probably few who bought the sticker from you.
Yeah,
There are 3 businesses, you have one too?
Yeah.
There are three businesses in town that honor the sticker right now.
Yeah.
I've been to all 3, you were one of them, thank you.
Which
Yep.
3?
Top Hat Bar,
Top Hat Bar,
Hey,
buy
all
one,
right.
get one.
Point Area Bicycle Service, and formerly Sugar Doll.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it would certainly be a program that I think businesses would benefit from if we would expand that or put some push for businesses to get on board.
Yeah.
It's-
Just to make sure it's not too confusing, even though it is, so we jumped to bicycle benefits, which
Yes,
is a
we did
different
jump.
national program. So we have the bike-friendly business, and yeah, I think your idea of at least holding some sort of event, would we want to try for April or May?
Or maybe we should talk to the Portage County Business Council and see if we could get on one of their agendas. Because you already
Sure.
have the people going there.
Mhm.
If you say, I want you to go to become a bicycle-friendly business, you gotta sell them that it's a good idea. So maybe we should see if the Portage County Business Council would allow us to have, 5-10 minutes on their agenda.
That's a good idea.
2 comments? Can
Yes.
Can we team up on like something like this with some of the bike advocates students from UWSP? So they can do a program, maybe get credit for it, do an internship, whatever. Since they've already been involved in, trying to get this bike-friendly campus.
Mm-hmm.
This might tie in well with them. And I just blanked on what else I was going to say.
That's all right.
It'll come to me about halfway through the meeting.
Good idea, though, yeah. I know a few we could collaborate with currently.
Yeah, and sort of extend it into the community and stuff.
So maybe we'll jump to the bicycle benefits part. So that's a different program. You'll see it on page 17 of the packet. So it just, we have a couple pages there, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of how it operates and a sense of the benefits involved. There's more online. You can see there's a couple links provided in the packet as well in that memo I mentioned earlier from staff. But generally speaking, a business signs up, they get shipped stickers, and they promote it with any type of poster or sticker at their business window or table space or whatever it might be. And then someone who rides their bicycle can stop by that business, patronize the business, and typically there's some sort of a discount. I've even seen some businesses that give something away for free, which is awesome. But again, the purpose is to get more people out and about, using more modes of transportation, as well as showing that we, as a business might care about those individuals as well. Maybe, not to put you on the spot, Mary, but you've gone through this. I don't know if you
Yeah,
wanted to
and
share.
I would say the bicycle-friendly business is a much larger program aimed at larger companies. It's, more aimed at employees. The bicycle benefits is something good for a retail store or a bar or a coffee shop, and there's nothing to it. You get your stickers, and each store advertises its own bicycle benefits program and decides what they want to give away. I gave a pretty nice discount, especially in bike-related stuff. And you sell the stickers for $5, and people put them on their helmet, and when they come in, they get that discount. And they give you door things and information, and it's easy breezy. I mean, it's it's a great little program,
Yeah.
but it just needs to, develop some momentum.
I know in Wausau, the Red Eye Brewery has a similar program. It's on their menu that if you come on a bicycle, you get a discount. It was pretty big. It was like 20% or something.
Wow.
And you notice a whole lot of bicycles in front of it. They're,
And inside.
Inside, hanging from the ceiling inside.
yes, inside they have a bicycle museum.
Yeah, right, pretty much.
But they have it on their menu that there's a discount.
Yeah. So,
Thanks for doing that, by the way.
Yes.
oh, yeah, it was.
Being the pioneer.
Great.
Well,
Were you the first in Stevens Point? First
might have
business?
been.
Yeah.
I mean, mine stickers got hand-delivered by Michelle, what's her name?
Bacchus?
Bacchus.
Yep.
And, in fact, I still have money to give her. I closed so suddenly, so. Yeah,
nice.
it was neat, and you took advantage of it, and then there's a couple who ride their bikes all over from Plover, and they took advantage of it many times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think those might have been the only 3 I sold.
No, come on, me too.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, and you took advantage.
I did,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So-
that often. I didn't want to exploit it because I knew that's really
Yeah, the thing is, you ride your bike, then you eat candy.
right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good program.
Yes, Commissioner Borski.
I remembered what I was going to say. With these two
Yes.
initiatives, could we also reach out to Portage County Can, even on their
Oh, yeah.
Facebook page? And also perhaps something through Greg Wright and Create, Ignite thing?
Create and Ignite, the PCBC Ignite.
Yeah, the Ignite group that just had their Discover Wisconsin thing last night.
Right. All great ideas. All right, so, one last thing I guess I'll mention about the bicycle benefits. I met the founder of it in Madison. Really? He was, really cool guy. He travels the country by bicycle. And he was just at this conference I attended, and he was buying pizza for everybody that wanted to join him on a bike ride around Madison. It was really cool. So, very genuine person. He wants to see this succeed, and he's very easy and flexible to work with. Did you have communication with him directly at all, Mary?
I don't think I did, although I remember looking him up. I mean, I really didn't have any questions or concerns. I just bought into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're a business out there listening, or if you read the minutes or whatever, check out the bicycle benefits link in the minutes or the packet, as well as the bicycle-friendly business designation through the LAB. That link is in there as well. So, are there any other discussion or comments on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, Walter Street pedestrian accommodations. So this was put into the staff memo, and I think, just as Scott is approaching, it's probably best he introduces this to the commission.
Yep, Scott Badoon, Director of Public Works. So, you see pages 19, 20, 21 within the packet here are an excerpt from the Safe Routes to School report. The reason I always wanted to bring this forward is that Walter Street is on our radar for our 2020 resurfacing. And, part of course, our goal in engineering there in Public Works, and when we're looking at these various projects, is to try to, correct some of the issues that are known, related to that. So part of our even prioritization is related to bicycle and pedestrian, accommodations. So this is one that we really want to get started on here sooner. And one of the other things I'm trying to do in engineering is try to get these things ahead of time so we have more time to flush things out and then get a product that, everybody likes, to get the best bid prices and work with the schedule that we always have. So we're already getting started on 2020 resurfacing and reconstruction projects. But this one has a little bit of a challenge to it, and we just need to sort out what it is, because some of the cost of whatever we otherwise do here, could change significantly depending upon the avenue that we would take. At the moment, we're not dealing with anything sidewalks. It's a fairly narrow road. It's a standard right-of-way, but there is some thought process to how best to serve it. And I know, even if we want to look at, probably the easiest thing to do is the map that was otherwise included there to illustrate kind of what was being presented in the Safe Routes to School had actually a whole variety of things to do. It incorporated some multi-use path, it incorporated some sidewalk, it incorporated some paved shoulder. It's just kind of a little bit of everything. And the idea is that the direction that we want to go, or do we feel that there's potentially a better way? Is there a preferred means that we want to accomplish what we set out to do here? There are some other challenges that reside within here, because outside of Bannock School, everything on the north side of the road is actually within the town of Hull. So this is the corporate limit. So as they identified things there and sidewalk going through there, we could put in sidewalk. However, that would essentially be our side of it. We wouldn't be able to assess it to them at this time, to the town folks there, nor would they be bound by our ordinance to keep it clean. Since that's a city ordinance and they live within the township, it would be the town, we'd have to coordinate with them. Now, there are some other ways around that. One of the things we could look at is, of course, in a stepwise fashion. Do we want to widen the road? Probably the lowest cost, and I don't have costs for various alternatives, but we looked at the right-of-way, and basically, whatever this body might otherwise want would probably fit within that right-of-way. Said it's a standard width right-of-way. I think there's a slightly narrower spot in there, but it's 60 or 66 feet. So we can certainly fit what we want, but is it a stepwise thing? Do we want to just widen the shoulders there, pave them, just create more room within that paved surface for people to utilize in that manner? I myself have some reservations. I think that would be an improvement, but the idea is that, I'm thinking of my children going to that school and I want to separate them from vehicular traffic by a 4-inch painted line. And especially think whether you have a winter like this and it's otherwise, slippery and icy, and it even gives me more, thought for concern. So some of the other ideas, of course, is that, we could put in, sidewalk. Now, there is the political aspect of it, and I know this has always been talked about with Alder McComb, who's I'm sorry, I'm looking at Alder McComb, so I think I've heard of it. It's another Mary.
It's another Mary, right?
So
Yeah.
Alder Kneebone about it, and I know there is some reservations for people there as far as getting, sidewalks. I mean, and that general area doesn't have, a sidewalk, in it. So this would be something that's new to them, but, that's something we can definitely look into and see what it is, and then, we can get some of those costs together on, what it would be, what could be assessed to them on the south side. Now, to add things into it, there's, always a bunch of things going on. Well, the school, of course, is on the north side, so if we put sidewalk on the south side, because we always have it, we're still forcing children to cross the road, or otherwise, get there, so we do that. So the one thing that we could potentially do, and it has some longer-term implications, is that because we do have the right-of-way on the north side, could be, instead of the sidewalk that they propose here, is maybe just extending the multi-use path, all the way, not even just on Sandy Lane as they show it in the mapping here, but go along the north side of Water Street. And there would be enough right-of-way to do that. In fact, there would be enough right-of-way if we wanted to put sidewalk on one side and a multi-use path on the other. But all of that has implications to do that, and then, the reason I'm bringing this forward now is that we need to get some thoughts on design there. I need to make sure that whatever thing we choose to do, that when we get to the budgeting later this year, we put in enough budget. What I don't want to do is, come up short and then realize that we don't have enough budget, laid out there, set aside to accomplish what we really want.
Right.
So I don't know if any of this, but if you have an idea of really what you see, I can work back to some things, or if there's just a thought process you otherwise have that we should, work towards. We get there, or if you otherwise in agreement that, this is the minimum standard of which that we want to see out there, if that's a sidewalk or a multi-use path, we'll start going in that direction. Like I said, I don't anticipate, outside of the political realm, of people maybe fighting an assessment, but I think there's enough right over here that we could do whichever we wanted.
So, thank you. Some points of clarification. What is the stretch of Walter that will be resurfaced?
Well, it actually includes a little bit more than Walter. It would be Sandy Road all the way from Gala, the intersection there, and it would be Walter all the way to Burlowski.
Okay.
So it would be there. And then there is sidewalk at Burlowski.
So Sandy from north of that property, all the way to
For-
Walter
It would
intersection?
be on the map here that was in the packet there from Gallo Road,
Okay,
from there, so that portion of Sandy Lane. And there's actually a little bit more in the area too. It's a bunch of a part, projects, several resurfacings within the area,
okay,
including even Maple Bluff over by Target and some others in that.
okay,
general
some
area.
disconnected ones.
Correct.
So that stretches south all the way to Walter intersection, the resurfacing?
The resurfacing would actually go slightly south
Slightly south, okay.
from there, yes. Because, yeah, eventually you get to the town of Hull, there's an area where the town of Hull crosses the street and it becomes their right of way, so.
Okay, and then the Walter stretch?
Walter
from-
Stretch would be all the way over to Burlowski.
Wow.
All the way to okay, okay.
A lot of that is Hull.
Well, the
It's
north
like-
side of it isn't, but the
Well, I
Jersey,
mean-
yeah, we're actually working through some, which is another side of the point, because there are some parcels there, we're trying to actually sort through the ownership and rights and stuff with that because of the, everything up. So there's some other things going on at the moment behind the scenes. But yeah, essentially though, it's our right of way. Our corporate limit goes to the north side of the road, so it's, even though that they may have ownership title to the land beneath it, it's our right of way to.
Is the right-of-way, why, if we did extend the multi-use path, is the right-of-way, how would it be separated from the road? the car
I don't
road?
have the other final that, but there would be enough, there's enough room there. We should be able to get, because one of the things we need to do as well, part of the reason that the road is in as shape as is that the swales that were once there are basically all filled in. And a lot of what the damage that we're already seeing there is water related. So we want to establish the swales, but there should be enough room to establish swales on both sides of the road, as well as still put in a multi-use path if need be. That would push the path probably all the way towards the property line. Essentially would be replaced where we would put a sidewalk, so. And then of course, but there should be enough room there to accomplish that.
Is that both for Sandy and Walter that swales have filled in, or?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't need my permission
Okay.
to talk, right?
Sorry,
In-
Commissioner.
Insofar as clearing the roads of snow and ice, the town of Hull adopted village powers in 1967, which means they come under the state statute that says they will make, the Board of Public Works will make sure that the road is, the sidewalks are clear of snow and ice, and they have the right to charge people for it or fine them. So they, if they really wanted it to be difficult, someone could go after them to do that. Any citizen of the town of Hull could, or anybody who has children going to Bannock would have standing. Because they have a obligation right now under the statutes to keep those sidewalks cleared, because in 1967, they thought it would be cool to have village powers.
So just to clarify, that means that if the city constructs sidewalks, the town of Hull is responsible for clearing?
As long as it's their
As long as
sidewalk.
it's their sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
They're responsible to make sure it's cleared. And look at right here. The school district is gonna do the major part. You have a few, homes along here, but it isn't, a great deal.
Is it the entire north side of Walter, stretching from Gala all the way to Burlowski, that is town of Hull, or is it kind of broken up?
It is the entire stretch.
It is,
Once
okay.
you get beyond the school there
Okay.
to Burlowski.
Is it not possible to get this up there today?
Not today.
Okay.
I don't, well, I mean,
Yeah, I don't have that tech. Kyle's the one that usually does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today,
Well,
sorry.
that's fine. Thought I'd ask.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for bringing this to our attention. With the elementary schools, typically, it's in a rather secluded area, so if you don't have any reason to be there, you wouldn't be familiar with this. But I find it just kind of amazing that an elementary school wouldn't have sidewalks up to it, and how it's gone this far without anybody objecting to that. So do children currently just walk in the street, or is they just get
Yes.
driven in
Yes.
all the time?
Yeah, I mean, those that walk or bike, they're just in the street.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot, of course, it's just kind of the way society is these days. There's, a fair number of kids that probably are within walking distance that are
Right,
driven.
that's right. And I think part of our
Right,
goal
and
is
so
to
part of the
promote
idea is
the
that,
fact
but I think part of that, though, in this particular case, it's hard to say that, well, maybe that's just the way the parents are, but if your children went there,
Right.
you might have reservations about that yourself, simply because the accommodations aren't there to get,
Exactly.
you may not feel very safe about it.
Right.
The nice thing about potentially doing a project like this is that we might be able to see then and change that. Because I know one of the issues that come up, and I thought it was interesting, some of the other things that are recommended, but, they talk about even the drop-off within this table that's included in the other pages and some of the issues they have there and the traffic backed up. Well, school-age children and, people may move in and out, of course, changes from years, so there's no guarantee what it would do. But, if more kids would then walk, then some of these other ones may even be self-correcting, simply because, the drop-off isn't otherwise crammed anymore because you don't have as many vehicles trying to pull in. The amount of traffic coming in and out may be reduced, making the overall, corridor safer, simply because you don't have those busy times, beginning and ending of school. So this project can have some much farther reaching implications than simply meeting, implementing the recommendations, as they're laid out on the figure here. But I just think that we definitely have an opportunity here. But just want to, identify what it is that you said, following the plan, I kind of have a reservation towards that, thinking that while there's an additional cost to adding additional facilities, and it really does probably come more the political realm of it, with the residents on either side, the question is, do we, want to otherwise force it upon people in the town of Hull when we won't do it to our own residents to put in a sidewalk? Or what avenues we otherwise take? Do we simply just install sidewalk, maybe in difference to what they're recommending is on the south side, where we can assess and do that? But, the idea is when you look at it in an engineering perspective, the right-of-way is wide enough, we can it really then comes up as making sure if we plan for it, that we otherwise just include that and have the costs, and we can construct what is best.
If I was going to have my children walk here, I'd want them to be on the north side, and the reason is you have a driveway every 80 or so feet
Right.
on the south side, and that's where pedestrians get hit. You go to the north side, it's pretty nice. There are no driveways, at least in
Right,
the
very
area
few.
adjacent to the school,
Correct.
other than the
Right.
school driveway, and then you got a street. It's a much safer deal, and that's where we want to encourage people to be. And I think there is a tangible engineering reason why it might be better in this particular case to do that, because all you have to do is look at the sidewalk on Clark Street with all those people who can't see in their driveways right now.
Right.
And there are people walking.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I imagine that's probably why the consultant and,
Yes,
the advisory groups that put together the plan,
yes.
when they did walking audits and engineering for this corridor, they probably had that in mind. Yeah.
Right, oh yeah, their recommendations, I mean, they make sense. I
Yeah.
mean, and there's a logic behind it and a reasoning why they came up with it. The real question is whether we wanted to maybe take it another step forward and how we want to accommodate, extending since they're already, making a recommendation for a multi-use path that seems to start nowhere and end nowhere, maybe there's logic then, in my mind at least, to say, well, let's maybe evaluate, do we continue that on the north side, take it all to Borlowski, then anyone that lives within this area could utilize that path to get over to stores and stuff. We're extending sidewalks, that's part of our sidewalk continuation program this year, is that area there. They would then have a continuous path or sidewalk then to follow that there to get to the, the fast food restaurants, to the hotels there, if they want to go swimming at the Holiday Inn, or they want to go to, Aldi's or Jung's or Fleet Farm, or any of those stores as well. Might provide that benefit, as well as, accommodating even, the, bicyclists as well in a safer fashion. So just a thought that we have, but like I said, that's why I'm presenting it.
I could
Yeah,
endorse this
Commissioner Coe.
program except for one note. Right in front of Bannock School, it says proposed sidewalk or paved shoulders. I would like to strike the or paved shoulders.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's, you had something?
Yeah,
Commissioner
I
McComb?
just want to give a shout out to my colleague, Mary Nebone. She has been on this since 2015, before you were born. And I know
Oh,
they've had
nice.
a public
You got a
meeting.
compliment.
They've had public meetings and everything, so you'll have all her
I-
backing and support for a good plan.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, one point as well, and I was studying this on the current, Google Maps of the school. I will tell you I did not do a walking audit of the facility before this meeting, but just
Wouldn't be
looking
able
at
to
the.
see.
What's that?
You wouldn't have been able to see anything.
Well, yeah, there's that, but the point I'm trying to make here is, I don't know where the snow is right now. In terms of that sidewalk extension to the north, I don't know if that's a possibility in putting this into the bid as well, but I thought in reading the notes directly in the plan on page, okay, so it's engineering, Northwest School, let me just see which one it is. Shoot. Oh, here it is, okay. So on page 19, strategy type under engineering, of course, item 4.1.7, create a raised sidewalk connection from the southern edge of the bus loading area to Walter Street. So if we thought about, you know, us being out there doing a walking audit and we're pretending to be a child going to school and we're coming from the west side, so the Gala corridor, we have a sidewalk that connects already, so we already have an entry point, right? A very safe one of the current sidewalk, even if it's not improved. But from the east, it's a different story. So if you're coming from the east side as a child, now you're either walking through a parking lot, which conflicts with potentially any cars that's, whether they're teachers or parents or whatever, for a car offloading zone. And then as well, does the child decide to go through the bus loading zone? Where are they going? Right now it's confusing, and for someone that might be 7 years old or whatever, and you'd want them to walk to school as a parent, is that a good thing, you know? So I do wonder, this is in the plan currently, that could be a really cool and safe improvement to the school, is having that raised sidewalk that kind of splits. It does this other thing too, is it splits the two loading zones, so it slows down automobiles automatically. So if a parent was driving there for the first time as well, now they don't have to make a decision as to, oh, I'm going to exit this way or enter this way. Which way am I going? I think there's paint right now. I don't know if there's signage or not, or it looks like there's just paint. Two yellow lines that form an hourglass telling people that they're not supposed to go there, I guess.
Yeah, it stops them.
So, yeah, right. So if there's traffic, people blocked up, people can scoot around currently if they wanted to. So I thought I'd bring that up as an addition, which is, again, currently part of the recommendations from the plan. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that? Scott?
Well, as far as that, because I mean, that's outside the right of way, so.
Oh,
that
sure.
would
Be a
be,
student,
Right.
be
you
a
know,
school
part of our project,
project.
but, you know, we'll definitely would be coordinating, you know, our project with the school district, and that may be an opportune time for them to implement some things as well.
I wonder if their referendum pieces had anything to do with pedestrian bike facilities at all.
I don't know.
I didn't look at that school specifically. You don't think so?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. All right.
But I guess from my perspective, thinking about what we would, you know, might implement there, I'm of the opinion that extending a multi-use path, you know, as shown here on Sandy Street, we would incorporate that portion to Gala. Then would also think that we might want to extend that path then eastward on the north side of Walter Street, as well as, since the right-of-way exists there, be proposing sidewalks on the south side. Some may argue it's belt and suspenders, but I think that's, the right-of-way is wide enough for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the, you know, safety of our children is well worth it. Like I said, so the idea is just come in. This is really supposed to just be a resurfacing project, but it's an opportunity, and I think we need to take
And
a
if you
serious
don't
look
do
at
it
that.
now, you'll get the
It's gonna
grades
be-
so screwed up that you'll
Right.
preclude yourself from doing it in the
Future, and that's one of the reasons why when they were looking at just doing some, you know, widening the shoulders and stuff like that as an interim procedure, it just doesn't work out well. It becomes a bigger project for less benefit at that point in time, and then as the pavement wears, you're doing that. So now we have an opportunity where the pavement needs to be replaced. You know, it becomes extra grading, it's a little extra work to do things, but, you know, there's not gonna be a better time for another 30 years.
Right.
As a commission, can we endorse such a plan, or would that?
Well, I was just going to ask if there's a motion to make a recommendation, or is there needed for further discussion?
I would make a motion that we endorse the plan with the provision that we also direct or ask that we consider putting sidewalks on both sides of Walter Street.
Okay, is there a
No.
second to
No.
that?
Okay, sidewalk in lieu of a multi-use
Yes.
path on the north side? Okay.
Is there a second,
I'll second it.
Jaworski? Discussion on that motion?
Yeah, so the discussion has been focused on the sidewalk being on the north
Right.
side, and you even expressed some reservations about having a sidewalk on the south side.
If you were gonna choose a side, I'd choose
Yeah.
the north side, but
But
it's much better to have them on both
both
sides.
sides, because if there are children. on
Because
that
children
street-
that live here, that means that they'll be crossing
Yeah, at some
at
point.
each
Yes.
driveway. Because the first thing about pedestrian behavior is they always take the shortest route.
Would you be willing to clarify, because you recommended, Scott, that doing a multi-use path on the north side of Walter was what you recommended just today.
Yes.
Would you maybe speak to that, how that compares to a sidewalk, just so everyone's on the same page? As far as costs and longevity, durability, things like that, maintenance.
And maintenance, the initial construction for that multi-use path is going to be slightly less, because it's otherwise not a sidewalk. That wouldn't be, of course, an accessible element. If it's not otherwise driven over, I mean, proper design, it should really last, as long as, and longer than the road pavement, to do it. What we probably don't is it would be something that would have to then be repaired by other means. We wouldn't expect individual owners to do that, so it would be something the city would then be taking responsibility for. The nice thing about sidewalks, we do that, become the property owners and do it. So there's definitely a long-term benefit to the city in doing sidewalk. And then as they otherwise need repairs, we would work with those, especially thinking forward if those properties are ever annexed. As far as longevity, both otherwise have their issues. You don't know, you get some of these years like today, it can be, get some water, get some freeze thaw. Concrete is easier to just do those spot repairs to, so you can kind of keep it, if it's marginal, it's easier to get it repaired to do that. Whether there's truly a right or wrong, it can even be a personal preference. The dark color of the asphalt can help melt off the snow and ice a little bit, easier, so that sometimes has those benefits.
Less tripping.
Yeah, and because it can have a more uniform, smoother surface to it, especially when it's new, and if it's properly maintained, that can also be kept. You don't have all the joints that up there, especially for anyone that might want to do inline skating or, a skateboard or, on their bicycle, that, because, being a multi-use path would accommodate bicycles as well. So, and I guess the thought was if there would be a potential multi-use path there extended, it may be nice to have that, through there and think further on how that might otherwise be, tie into any future developments to the east and whatnot. So, but it could really be whichever. I think the primary goal is to get elementary aged children safely to
Right.
school.
Off the street.
And even
that.
parents ushering back and forth,
Right.
If they're using the sidewalk, it's, lead by example.
Right. And I think, the multi-use path, although this would just be another segment, students would still have to otherwise get there. Part of my thought is, especially if you're coming from farther to the east on the other side of Berlowski, you might be able to then cross there, then if you have the multi-use path, would take some of the students off, the younger students, especially off the road, onto a multi-use path, which I would think, might be more accommodating for them than the sidewalk. But again, either or would really work.
Okay.
So that was just otherwise my thought is.
So as far as the.
Bicycle-aged children.
The
Sure.
proposal then.
We could say or sidewalk or multi-use path on both sides.
Leave the details to City Council,
Well,
Public
when you
Works.
do your
and
design study
we're just
report,
gonna-
that's what'll come up.
Oh,
We
right.
just endorsed that we think there should be.
Yes.
So we need
Some
to,
accommodations.
do you need to
I think it's good
rescind the motion?
I will amend the motion to
Okay,
instead of saying sidewalk, say sidewalk or multi-use path.
on both sides of the street,
Yes, on
or?
both sides.
Okay, on both sides of the street. Is there a second for that?
Yes, I'll do it again.
Commissioner Borski, all right. Any further discussion on that amended motion?
Good.
Okay, then I guess we'll have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposition?
All right,
Okay.
well, I thank you. We'll get started on some design concepts then.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to item 6. Review and prioritize recommendations within the Portage County Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. So, as most people here know, as well as some folks in the public, this is a very robust plan that our commission is essentially charged to help implement through things like policy and education encouragement. In the packet itself, there were a few pages that staff put together specifically that are for the city of Stevens Point. So pages 22 through the end of the packet to 35. And you'll see a combination of different types of recommendations. So what staff member Kyle Kearns did is he kind of took these pieces apart and laid it out into a nice, easy format that all of us can visualize, broken down by types. So encouragement, education, evaluation, other, and then there's engineering, which is the latter parts of this document. And even lists the very specific street corridors for the engineering recommendations. Now, just to make note, this plan was approved in 2014 by the county and then approved by by the city of Stevens Point in 2015. And so time is moving. It's not stopping. So, you know, the pricing that is listed in there is older, so that might not be as relevant as it used to be. Most likely prices have all gone up for those recommendation specifics. So really today, we are looking at finally starting to prioritize the different recommendations. We have, as a commission, and formally as a BPAC, we had chipped away a little bit here and there of the recommendations, as well as taking on other priorities. But I think, in agreeing with staff in a previous meeting, that helping the commission prioritize elements would be very useful, especially with meeting certain goals. It essentially alludes to having goals every single year on achieving certain recommendations, and then kind of checking off the list, if you will. I think Associate Planner Kyle Kearns said in, I don't know if it was an email or a meeting, he suggested it would be nice if specifically for the engineering elements, there were 3 to 5 items that we checked off every single year. And, you know, how arbitrary that is, I don't know. It all depends on costs and budgets. You know, a great example is the vote we just had on the last agenda item. You know, it would essentially be checking off the list for the Safe Routes to School plan. So that's kind of my lead into discussion on starting to prioritize the recommendations for the plan. I guess I will mention one more thing, and that's Kyle also had the lead agency department partner timeline and status columns to kind of help guide us in being action-oriented. The one thing that is missing in here is in that lead agency department column. In the plan, it does recommend who's in charge of each recommendation. So right now, it's blank, and I think our commission, one of us could fill that in. So when we further break this down and have more discussion next month, that we can actually know specifically if it's only the city of Stevens Point that's in charge of this item, or if it's the city and the county, or is it the city and all the other villages and towns, et cetera, et cetera. So all these items here are listed, aren't just Stevens Point, just so you're aware of that.
You need someone to do it?
What's that?
Are you asking one of us to do it?
Good question. Sure.
No,
Would
that's
someone
how I-
like to volunteer
I
to do
would.
that for the next?
I
That'd be
would.
great. Thank you,
I just want
Commissioner
to make sure I
Borski.
understood what you were saying.
Yep, I was getting there.
Getting there?
Thanks for, thanks for asking, yeah. So yeah, Commissioner Borski, if you could do that, enter all the lead agencies into they're right in the county plan listed. So for now, I think we're kind of starting that discussion on how to prioritize. And that's not the easy thing to do,
I
but,
started a low-hanging fruit. I went to
Yeah.
the last part, the urban primary streets needing sidewalks, table 51. I would like us to say that those gaps that are both have high volume of use and a crash history should be the ones we should hit first.
do you know currently if the priority is based on that? Because they list the priority, I'm sorry, yeah, priority, so some have like medium term.
Yeah.
yes,
I'm just saying
priority.
that we're right now prioritizing what we want in the next budget. And there really aren't that many that hit both Division Street, Maria to Academy. There are only about 3 or 4 that have that. McDill, Felser, Burlowski, that's right here, North Point Drive.
On page 34 of the packet,
Yeah.
if you're looking.
Yeah, if you just keep going and just look at the yes for crash and then go to the fourth column, which is use and high. If we do those, that would be a very budgetable amount, because there just aren't that many of them, but those would be the ones I would think would be, you'd really want to do, because,
So basically prioritize by crash and
use.
use. And when you say use, do you mean essentially?
Well, it's how many people are using it. It's low to moderate, and the higher the use, the more apt you want to do it. But certainly, if you have crashes and you have high use in an area, that's where those would be the ones you want to do first.
But also,
Oh,
as I look at US Highway 10 from I-39 to Burlowski, also recognizing that low to moderate use may reflect the,
I agree with you.
yeah, that it's not easy to use.
But it may stay low to moderate use if we do nothing, but the ones that already have high use already have the traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying, if you have crashes, we may go and then get more to get that number, because there aren't many that are both crashes and high use, but there are several, and those are the ones I'd really like us to.
Like, for example, the North Point Drive.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's crash rating, higher crash rating, and then higher use.
Yes.
So North Point Drive currently is, so division to school grounds. I don't know if, Scott, you're able to,
Was there anything done with the sidewalk with the roundabout construction? Up there?
so if you look at page 34 of the packet, it says North Point Drive,
Wait,
division to school grounds. And it has a yes for a crash rating, yes, it's an arterial, yes,
that's where the,
excuse me, high use. So I don't know if you can,
What we're doing is we're directing Scott to look at, we're giving him direction on how to do the prioritization. He'll do
Right.
that
Just
on
to
his
give you,
own.
and I do believe that that was the section that was at,
Yeah.
on the hotel there, that was, which is
Yes.
now it was included with the roundabout
Yes.
construction.
okay.
So
But,
those
you
are-
know,
but-
our job is to sort of set policy. We don't have to look at the specific one. Scott will look at it. But if you wanted to do it, I think if you have crashes, those should be your first, and then the higher the use, the more apt you are to do it.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and that's exactly what we do, because when when we're looking at reconstruction, resurfacing, as well as
That's
just
what you do.
individual projects and stuff, yeah, do that. And that's exactly the sort of stuff that we're looking to do, that not to pick off this particular project, that particular project, but how to look at this thing, because we have to weigh out whole
Right.
variety of things in it. And at times when we need to look at something, we need to look at this and say that that's a standalone project, give budget, other things we may be able to program in if we know that we've got work coming up
Yeah.
at the same time, because we want to, utilize, whatever funding source is most appropriate to it. So if we can
Right.
add it to another project in the next coming years to do that. If we're not, then we need to do that. But that, yeah, that sort of stuff helps us. Then when we go through our listing and stuff like that for projects, we can make sure we're tackling the
Because if
same
we
things.
don't do that, what they do is they'll say, we're gonna hit the first three districts this year, the second three the next year, and that's another way to do it that people do. And I would prefer that we prioritize based on need.
Sure.
I have two
Commissioner-
questions.
Yep.
First one, so the county plan preceded the TAP grant.
Correct.
So is there any designation on this plan, things that are included in the TAP grant?
Yeah.
Is
The
there-
entire TAP grant is based on the plan.
Right,
Yeah.
but, for example, there are, the counterflow lanes are. in-
Contraflow, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if Kyle
So
excluded
those
those or
are-
not.
You
I'm
you
not sure
wouldn't
if he
be able to see it,
excluded
but
them.
I actually went through the
Okay.
plan. on that.
You
So
have- you
there's a
have-
variety of
okay.
things and different, so all the things, you won't be able to, I can show this to the camera, too. They
Right.
won't be able to see that. But, the things that I've highlighted here on yellow are actually part of the TAP
Okay.
grant. So there are a number of
Nice.
things that are being
Okay.
done, and then I highlighted some other colors with some other projects that have either happened or are coming up.
Ooh, nice.
That will be
So
addressing
in terms
things
of
to show.
priority, those have been
We're
already
working on it,
designated.
especially, as we can. Now, much of ours is just set up, what are the recommendations? We're incorporating what we can of the plan into our prioritization models. We look at things to prioritize. Again, that's part of the reason why Walter Street, it's not the worst pavement
Yeah.
road in there, but because of the other things, and it really is, it rises to the top because of the prioritization points we assigned it for bicycle and pedestrian accommodations. That's why it's on the list for 2020 and not some years in the future. And we're trying to utilize this information to,
Right.
to get there. Now, the more you can pinpoint some of the things as far as how to work with this list and, prioritize this list, and there, we can adjust our model to accommodate that, which is then gonna take similar, what might otherwise be similar projects, and then help do this to it, so we could,
Right.
because some of them, when we look at it and we assign priority points to things, okay, so what's the difference between if some numbers, within a couple of priority points to one another, we don't go right down the list and go here and there, we put things together, but if we can look at the list and identify that these are similar projects, and we can look at the priority points then given to bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, we say, okay, this one, the need is, there's another need more than these other factors. And then we'll say, okay, let's concentrate on those first. And so when we're trying to yet prioritize after we've gone through that, the math and the background, there's still a human factor that does that. So when we know this, that helps us take projects that are otherwise similar and then reorder them into a more logical project that accomplishes the greater, amount, best benefit. I guess the one thing I would even recommend in here, and one thing that we're starting to, and just so that you're aware, with that, is trying to keep track of, within the city, the bicycle miles, the routes and stuff like that, and looking forward, because I know one of the recommendations is keeping track of those and what's being added, and I think that would be one of the nice things as far as the, kind of the goal, and I have to admit, I don't have anything to suggest at the moment here what it is, and can give it some thought, is, one of them is just trying to come up with, what should we be seeing as those increases, what would this body like to see to that, what's saying that we're actually making that accomplishment. Doesn't mean that every year those projects are gonna fall and we're gonna do that. But, over several years, are we hitting those goals in mind to say that we're adding so many, whatever miles of bicycle facilities and sidewalks, and that's otherwise happening. Then with a little bit of more guidance that, engineering, we can take care of the other things, but we just need to know that we're otherwise hitting those marks, for the other elements as well. And that helps us decide whether, like I said, if we end up, sometimes we just have no other case, it's gonna be a standalone project.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just need others to do that, but that we also need to be able to budget for that. And know that we have the support of this body to do that, so when they're cutting budgets and stuff in other places, then, we, it's not just, myself trying to otherwise argue on.
Right.
and prioritize those,
Right.
those things as well. So sometimes that can be difficult. We're trying to share funding across
Right.
the state.
And what I would, the way I would analyze it would be, I would look to see that the number of projects we have on here that either have crash or high use goes down.
Right.
You know, the percentage goes down. And that's really how I would look at it, as opposed to number of square feet of sidewalk laid, because some of the sidewalk that you really gotta need is gonna be a high-expense sidewalk, because you're gonna be stuck between a building and a curb, for instance, and it's gonna be more expensive. And so you might not get as many square feet that year, but you will have improved the quality of life for pedestrians. Or you have an area where there's a demand for bicyclists, and it's just not cheap to get there. Let's say you're
Right.
gonna put a bike lane on a bridge. That's, could be several years of your budget for bicycle accommodation, but it could be very well worth it. And so I would look to see that we're reducing the number of areas that have crash history or very high usage. And then eventually, our definition of very high will go lower.
Right. Yes, and it definitely should. I mean, along those lines, you know, also just need to be cognizant that a lot of the things would be, you know, the discussions, you know, how long have we been otherwise looking at church and division?
Yes.
There's a lot of things that can be corrected when we finally get to doing it. The price tag on that is significant. And there's some planning being done right now related to that. So even though we may set the priorities for some of those things, it doesn't always mean that they're gonna happen
Right.
first.
Right.
And they need to be put, some of them just need, just because of the planning, the costs, whatever, that need to do that. But yeah, those are definitely the things that we're,
Okay.
you know, we're working on, and I totally agree that those are the areas we need to do that, because, you know,
And on another deal, on our new roundabout, I'd like to congratulate you on that the the sight lines to the pedestrian crossings work out quite well. And that's a real problem with those designs, and I think you did as well as we could.
Yeah. yeah, thank you. I actually encountered my first pedestrian just last week or something behind, you know, the snow, and like, it is actually surprising when you come around there, as soon as you turn and look, yeah, you can otherwise.
And there's
see
enough
there.
time to
And you-
react.
Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, it was one of those things, you kind of met, and he looked and just kind of, you know, come on through. Like, all right, go. But yeah, there's enough time for that interaction to happen, which is
Right.
actually very nice.
Yeah.
So my second
Commissioner
question
Feuerbach.
was a simple one for myself and for anyone else who's reading this. The SLM is what again? Under the facility?
Shared lane marking.
Shared lane marking.
That's right. Otherwise known as Sharrows.
Sharrows, okay, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And then, so as far as priority, you know, what I see on this that is also on the TAP grant, and having spent a lot of time in the central city area, is the two proposed contraflow bike lanes, I think are really, really needed. There's just not a safe legal way to get from the Y across Division on Franklin Street, and then
Sure.
coming up on Reserve also. Those are two things, and they're easy fixes, and I think they would be very beneficial to
Yep.
pedestrian and.
Those are still coming.
Yes, I realize that.
2020, they'll be done. Maybe two items, Scott. Could you, since you already had taken the liberty to highlight, which is awesome, can you scan those and then maybe send them to the commission? And then Janice can have that as part of the same document?
Yeah, I can definitely take this and I'll talk to, I'll just ask you, can you get the original file for this for me? Okay, if you do that, then I'll just highlight it right on there.
Perfect,
and
yeah.
Send it off.
And then you can input the, yep.
Sounds
the,
good, thank you.
Yeah, agency, perfect. And then maybe as far as timeline for two things. One, us finishing essentially our model for prioritization for the bike ped plan, maybe by you know, if we're aggressive by next month, we can have it ready, at least a draft, and then go from there, if that sounds realistic for the commission. And then I guess another one would be for a question for Scott for timeline of assessing it each year. So obviously, right now, it seems like you're ahead of the game, which is awesome for 2020. Would this make sense for having this sort of revisitation of the bike ped plan, our prioritization model in, say, February, March of every year for the next, you know, the following year's reconstruction cycle? Does that make sense, or am I kind of?
Well, I think, like what Commissioner O'Meara was going to, is if you set kind of the policy in that, then that just kind of keeps, you know,
Keeps rolling.
rolling through there without having to then come back. every
each
year to
time.
do that.
Sure,
And that
okay.
allows us the flexibility to keep things, you know,
Flowing, yeah.
flowing, and that,
Okay.
and I think that works the most efficient manner. I think what then, within that said yet too, is, you know, the idea that, you know, if we're keeping track of some of the things that are going on, like we're marking those things off, then, you know, what I expect from you and needs to be done, you know, is that if you're not seeing that progressing as it should, you know, then that begs the question, you know, why is that not
Sure.
happening? And then there should hopefully be an explanation, you know, for that. But other than that, I think, yeah, we can work within that essentially the policy, the guidelines of that established the priority.
Okay, great. Very good. Are there any other questions or items for discussion on this agenda item?
I do have one question.
Yes, Commissioner.
Do we have a annual sidewalk inspection program of our sidewalks?
We do.
Yes.
Yes, we do. We are on a, I believe it is 5-year
Okay.
rotation. And then I think if we're looking to maybe make some changes to that, I don't have anything set up yet. We're trying to find better ways to automate it using GIS and other technologies to cover more and keep track of, a big part of it is the record keeping.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily always even the time in the field, it's a matter of just keeping track of everything. So we're trying to find ways. We'll be testing something out this year. If it works well, then we might be on we might go from maybe 5 down to 4 or 3 areas, and we'll get through the city faster, which is always good because we want those issues repaired as soon as possible and not linger.
Great. Thank you, Scott. All right, any other discussion on this item? Anyone from the audience? No? Okay. Mr. Commissioner O'Meara, would you be willing to put together a draft for April, potentially?
Of the,
Kind of our prioritization of the
Yes.
plan itself.
sure.
That'd be great. And I will mention before we
See, I'm
leave
going
this.
to be chairing that meeting.
Right, I was just gonna mention that I won't be present. I can't make it, I'll be out of town. All right, moving on to item 7, staff updates. We have 2 staff here. Maria, start with you. Do you have any updates for the commission?
I have no update.
Okay, awesome. Scott, any updates?
I guess just a couple things. Since it's been a while since we've had this, anyone following Board of Public Works, always know that our sidewalk continuation project was bid and has been awarded, so that is moving forward.
Great.
And as soon as, if spring ever shows up, we'll actually probably get a schedule together with the contractor, and I can give you more information on that, but at the moment, that's all I have on that. The other thing is TAP grant, just otherwise an update on that, which will be part of my director's report for next week, but is all the plan sheets are essentially created for that. So as far as the actual designing engineering is still being done, they're doing the modeling for the intersections to see what needs to be done with any of the controls or any other changes, even some of those elements that may be outside the contract that they have there. Also, railroad coordination is underway.
Sure.
Environmental documentation is nearly completed, and I think the last element is there will be SEH, the consultant will be submitting on a change order for a historical review. At the time the contracting was put together, the DOT, or their management consultant had identified that they didn't think didn't know for a fact whether that was necessary, and have since, through the project, the DOT has identified that it will be necessary as far
Okay.
as the grant funding. So that just meets the requirements of the Section 106 of the Historic Preservation Act, whatever it is. So that
That's-
will all yet need to be completed.
Is that specifically for just certain subsections possibly, or?
Yeah, predominantly just the downtown
Yeah.
area
Okay.
there that they need to do it. Because there were actually several things that even when we were negotiating with Tool, that were identified as things to try to reduce the scope and stuff, so it was just assumed that these things we're doing categorically excluded. However, we just haven't been able to grant the categorical exclusion to eliminate having to do the work, so.
Okay.
Do it. So, yeah, we're still otherwise basically, we're on schedule. The intent was kind of the, potentially late winter, early spring timeframe to kind of get things and present some of the initial design, have another public informational meeting, and I would say we're pretty much on target with that.
Okay.
To do that. So probably looking at that May-ish, June-ish timeframe, so it might be pushed back a month, I guess, with the additional environmental documentation, but, but still plenty of
Okay.
time to get the bid out for next year's construction.
Okay, and your office will just keep us informed when that meeting comes
Absolutely.
about?
Yep.
Perfect. Great, thank you. All right. That exhausts our agenda. We are adjourned at, looks like 10:13. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for
Thank you.
hanging out with us.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.